Welcome to the Keys of Being a Great Father with Deaderick Jones, who also just notified me that we call him D. We are excited to have you. My name is Donna, and I'll be moderating today's session. I'll be monitoring questions in the chat, and if you have any issues, you can send me a message, direct message through the chat, Zoom chat. We ask that everyone stays on mute during the session unless you have a question or to participate in the conversation. This helps reduce background noise, and then we encourage you to be on the video if you can, so we can see each other and build community. But if you're more comfortable or must be off video for children and other reasons, we understand. If you'd like to read the transcript or see closed caption for this session, please click on the button that says CC Live Transcript, then choose Show Subtitle. You can hide the subtitles by repeating this process. Please share your thoughts, questions, affirmations, or anything that is particularly interesting to you in the chat or through the reaction buttons. Now I will introduce Mr. Deaderick Jones. Overcoming the odds of life, Deaderick Jones committed his career and passion to helping others overcome those same odds. His life and career path encompasses over 25 years of successful professional and leadership experiences in government and family services, community organizations, the juvenile justice system, religious organizations, prisons, and educational institutions. D.L. Jones is the CEO of Strategic Engagement Systems, LLC, and brings together the proven keys to successful engagement and outcomes for the thousands of lives that have been impacted throughout the journey. Now I will turn it over to our presenter for the session, Mr. D. Jones. Thank you for being here.
Yes, and I want to thank you all. It means so much to have this opportunity on a Saturday, right? Where parents and father figures have taken the time out to be a part of a conference. I want to first let everybody on this call know, I know you're special. I hope you know that you are special. I hope you know that great things are going to happen as a result of you investing this time right here. These things do not happen by accident, and these moments do not happen by accident. So let's go ahead and get going. I want to use the slide to kind of help introduce who I am. You could go to the next slide for me. I want to kind of let you know how I landed in front of you, okay? Well, I landed in front of you because at the end of the day, what I know is that father figures have something that we can all depend on and count on, and that is the fact that we all have a pride. You know, we all have that in common, and we all need to build on it. You know, when you look at this, for example, when you look at that picture there, you don't see anything except a person that's confident, and you see the confidence it gives the cub just from the presence of a father figure or a lion of a pride. And the first thing we want you to know that as father figures, that's who you are. See, self-awareness is very important. And I want to help you understand why I share this information with so much passion. So before even coming to you, like she mentioned before, I worked for 20 years working with at-risk populations, people who rape, kill, murder, the whole nine, all of it. And they all used to have one thing in common, is that they didn't have a father figure, or the father figure that they had was implementing some things that had a detrimental effect. So you need to understand something. First of all, not having a father is better off than having one that's leading you in the wrong way. It has just as much effect. And so after years and years of working with so many people when it comes to fatherhood and what was missing, I decided I needed to get into a place to talk to people before their children growed up. So I became the principal of several early Head Start centers, early childhood education. And everywhere I went, we would get these awards for having the most engagement with our families and with our men. Well, I mean, it's not hard to engage when you have people still dropping a child off. Remember, the reason I came into the school system is because I was working with people where you couldn't find the parents anymore. So when you got parents still bringing a child to school, trust me, you got someone that loves their child, and we have to build on that, right? As a man, you can only be as good as a dad as what the next dad showed you. So one of the things I want to do, we're going to open this up really quick. I'm trying to see, I know I got some fathers on the call, and I want to ask you all some questions. So I want to trust you. I want you to trust this process, okay? I want any one of the men who can, if you're on a call, tell us, what do you remember most about your dad? if you can unmute yourself and tell us, what do you remember most about your dad? Or maybe I can pick someone. How about Michael Rivera? Michael Rivera, can you unmute yourself and tell us, what do you remember most about your dad? All right. If anybody can, somebody tell me what you remember most about your dad. Can you unmute yourself? Are people allowed? Okay.
Yep. So for me, I just remember my dad always being in jail.
Okay.
It wasn't until I was in my 20s that he finally got himself together and did things to keep himself out of jail.
That's good, Chris. I'm glad you shared that, because listen, I need somebody else. How about Arturo Caballero? Can you let us know, or someone else besides Chris? So when we think about Chris, I'm just going to give an example. Chris opened it up. He said, I remember my dad, he was in jail, XYZ. Well, I'll tell you what, if someone else wants to share, go ahead. But Chris, believe it or not, has opened the door up for a very rich conversation. Anybody else? What do you remember most about your dad?
Is that a question only for the men?
No, it's for the women too. I'm sorry, sisters, and because
It's okay.
sisters and women, I'm father figures too. So yes, anybody, tell me, what do you remember about your dad?
I remember my father making sure that the men he brought around were positive influences on us. I remember my father going to all the parent teacher conferences. We lived in the hood in Brooklyn. He made sure we went to the opera. We saw, the botanical gardens and all types of stuff like that. And I remember when my parents got divorced, he was very distant and totally disappeared.
Man, that brings up some more. And how old were you when that happened?
I was 12 when they got divorced.
And did you guys lose, and I appreciate, just keep trusting this process here. Did you guys lose contact completely after that?
No, my mother moved us to North Carolina. We stayed with him briefly while she was in prison, very long story. And then I remember he came to North Carolina 3 times, each time for a funeral, but he
Okay.
never,
I
yeah.
got you. I got you. So here's what I do know about this state, and what about men and women all over the world. Here's what I want you to know. If I was to keep going around this call and asking people what they remember about their dad, it's going to be all kind of things. You can see Chris' dad was in prison until he was 20. As you can see what happened with Miss Saina, dad was there, then something happened, life happened. And if you go around the room, you're going to see some people had great dads. Then some people going to say, man, I don't even know my dad. I was raised by the streets, this, and this. But here's why we're going to do this. This is exactly why we're on this call. And this is why I love when we get together to talk about fatherhood. Because without us coming together, then you're going to be guessing at something you don't have to guess at. All right. I want you to trust the process. Go to the next slide for me. See, as dads, you can only be as good as a dad as what you've been through yourself. And what people don't understand is that today's men are not like old school fathers. All right. Today's dads are different. Today's men, they want to connect with their children. All right. Today's dads, they want to have emotional connection. That's what they want to do. So we have to equip them to do it, because see, we all got a pride. And we all want to connect with them. Past generations was different. If you was to ask, well, what was fathers doing that? Most people say, man, my dad would come home and, he just lay down the law, make sure everybody was doing what they're supposed to do. And that was it. Well, today's dads want to do more than just lay down the law. We want to be engaged. So give me a second. Let me pull up my screen so that I can see my participants here. Change my view. I like to see everyone if I can. There you go. I like this better. There you go. Great. This is great. I can see Brother Chris is in the car. Good to see you, Chris. That helps me out to see some people, man. So today's dads want to be engaged, but the key is we can only be as good as what we ever experienced, right? We all have this pride. And the first thing I want you to know, that anybody that's a father figure begins with how you see yourself. It begins, and here's the good news about being a father figure of a child from age 2 to 6. You are guaranteed to be the superhero, and only you can lose that power. I'm serious, man. Can't nobody take away how your child looks at you, especially when you accept in the role of being a father and what comes along with it. So when you look at that picture right there, have you ever seen a lion out in the wild? Have you ever seen a lion looking sad and pitiful, walking around with his head down? No, you haven't. That's exactly how lions look. And that's exactly how father figures need to know who they are. We all have a pride. And so what we need to do is just make sure we're going to do everything that's possible to make us great dads. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. I work with dads every month all over the country, several programs, all right? And I can tell you that there is no manual for being a great father. But what I can tell you is that we're going to show you 3 or 4 things today that if you do them, you will be in your child's life for the rest of your child's life, and they will reach their goals and you will reach yours. Let's keep going, guys. Check out this slide. If you could go to the next slide for me. Here are some facts just because men are present. Like, even if a man was just present, here are some of the facts that come along with that. I want to look at the ones that are highlighted in yellow. Listen, children who feel a closeness with their father are 75% less likely to experience teen birth just because they feel closer to their father. And they're 80% less likely to spend time in jail and experience multiple depression symptoms just because the father is present. These are facts. Watch this. The quality of the father and child relationships matters more than the specific amount of time. That's right, dads. That's right, fathers. It didn't matter if you didn't see your child for 15 minutes. If you do the right thing in those 15 minutes, it's the quality of the time versus the amount of time. And listen, non-residential fathers can still have a positive effect. I got an 18-year-old and a 3-year-old. The 18-year-old, we have never lived together. I just pick him up Tuesday, Thursday, every other weekend. It's been that way since he was 3. He don't think nothing about life except it is wonderful. Why? Because when I'm with him, it's quality time. And we're going to show you some things today that'll assure you that no matter how much time you have, it's going to assure you to not only be great, but to have a lifelong bond, man. Look at this. High levels of father involvement are correlated with higher levels of social ability, confidence, and self-control in children. And believe it or not, as a father, there are specific things we're supposed to do. And if don't nobody tell you, there's no way you're going to know them. I'm going to show you. When we go over the next slide, you will know that if nobody tells each other these things, then we won't know them. We can only be as good as a dad that we have experienced before. So first of all, I want to let you know that these are facts that just because you're present. So I want to encourage you to stay present because listen what we heard. You know, Miss Sheriff, Miss Saina didn't know that this slide was going to be there, right? But what I want you to understand is it's important to just be present. Because your presence, I'm asking you to be present. So many of those kids that I work with that rob, kill, murder, it's because they weren't even there. And so you might not have all the skills to be great, but I promise you, if you just please just stay committed and be present to whatever child you're committed to, whether you're a mother figure or a father figure. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mother. She was a father figure. My dad, I didn't stay with him every night. I had to stay with my mom and every other time with my dad. So my mom had to do it all and teach me lessons as well. And you need to know as mothers as well that you can still provide and put your child in a position to experience father figures, actually. And we're going to give you some tips on how to do that. So let's go to the next slide. I want you to see something because we want to be more than just sitting around present. So here's what I want you to understand. Most people don't know this. You better seize the moment that you're in. One thing I like about doing this call today is that I know that everybody on this call is associated with somebody probably from birth to age 6, right? So here's what you need to know. You have to seize that moment. Most people don't know this, but 85% of brain development happens from age 2 to 6. 85%, like right now on this call, every single grown person on this call, 85% of your brain developed from age 2 to 6. And now you stuck with what happened with that brain from age 2 to 6. Did you know that? You'd be surprised how many people didn't know that. Like, it don't matter whether you're rich, poor, black, white, wherever you're from, 85% of your brain developed from 2 to 6. Well, if 85% of your brain is developed from age 2 to 6, then who's responsible for it? It ain't you. So as a father, I have to know that my parenting is not just making sure this kid can run and jump, man. That's just one part of the brain. That's natural to fathers, the playing, the running, the going up the stairs. That's natural. And sometimes we can think that's all we need to do. But I promise you, you want to be a good steward of your child. We were talking in the last session about peace and parenting. Well, you can have peace of mind when you know that you're doing what you need to do as a parent. See, parenting is an intentional act. Being a father is intentional stuff. Look at this example I showed you on the screen. Caterpillars turn into butterflies. We all know that. But that means that the most important time is when they go in that chrysalis right there. That's how you have to picture your child right now. They are age 2 to 6. So every day you're supposed to be molding their brain. Every day as a father, you know, we love our child, but here's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to look at him and say, man, I love my baby. But as a father, go the next step and say, how can I support and help mold my child's brain? See, go to the next level, the next slide. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So I don't believe in saying something without showing you so that it makes sense, because we want to be great fathers. And I want us to take our love and be intentional about it, because once again, you know, we all love our children, but we can only do it based on what we feel like we, you know, experience. But if I give you some tools that are just facts that you can't even argue about, then maybe they'll get us on the same page. So look at this. Everybody's brain has 4 sections. Your child, look at the screen. There's 4 sections on your child's brain, Daddy. Now, on the bottom left, it says physical motor, fine and gross motor skills. Well, that's real simple. Gross motor skills is all that big jumping and running and all that. And then you got your fine motor skills, you know, your different things that are more intricate, more smaller detail movements, hand-eye coordination, balance, throwing the ball. See, we do great at that. That's natural. But when you look at this brain, that's only 25%. Look at that picture. That's only 25% of the brain. Now, as a dad, if I know that I'm responsible for all of my child, which we are, we want to support their development, not just throwing the football and basketball and jumping and running. But listen, look at this. Their brain is developing in social and emotional skills. Your child's brain is developing in cognitive skills. Your child's brain every day needs speech and language. So every day when your child wake up from age 2 to 6, every father figure needs to know that there's 4 areas every day that your baby needs your help, man. And what I mean by that is they need your help. They don't need you to stop it. Here's what I mean by that. Look at this. I want you all to imagine, let me see who's going to be. I think Chris, since you already started talking, or anybody else, I want you to imagine you take your child, let's say you got a little boy, and you take him to the playground to play. And you know, I'm just gonna tell y'all on the call, when daddies take their kids to the playground, a bunch of other kids, some of them look to see if they kid tough and all that stuff. So let's say you take your kid to the playground and they get ready to get on the slide, but then you see a little girl get in front of your little boy, and then your little boy come to you crying, Daddy, they won't let me on the slide, Daddy. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna do? Somebody tell me. Somebody of these fathers, one of these fathers, tell me what you're gonna do.
I'm more than likely gonna tell him that he just has to wait his turn, or after that, if that still continues, then I'm gonna go over and we're gonna have a conversation. Okay,
man, that was a great response. All right, let me give you some other responses that's gonna happen on the call. Man, you better cut that crying out, get back over there. Hey, boy, hey, man, that's a girl, get on back over there. You know, but here's what I want you to understand. Remember that every time your child comes to you, their brain is developing. So here's another way to do it. I want to commend the first brother, but let me tell you this. Imagine if your child came crying to you and you say, hey, son, come here. Let's say you put your hand on a little back or chest and you give them a little rub. You say, hey, man, it's all right. Everything gonna be okay. Calm down, buddy. Hey, man, listen, wait your turn. Just like my man said, hey, just wait your turn. But listen, ain't nothing wrong with you. You don't have to cry, man. You go on back out there and play. Now, how much time did that take? About 20 seconds, right? Now, look at everything that happened. On the first example, if your child comes crying to you 3 or 4, you say, cut that mess out and go. Then guess what I just said? Look at this. The intellectual cognitive skill says that you need to learn how to self-regulate. Well, if I come to you crying and you say, cut it out and go back over there, you just told me to stop the emotion, don't identify with it, just shut it down. But when I come to you crying and you put your hand and just rub and say, hey man, it's okay, what's going on? Then guess what happened? You just helped me self-regulate. And guess what? I'm age 2 to 6, so I need help self-regulating. Stop trying to make your 2 to 6-year-old just stop everything. You have to love them through it. And when I know that I'm responsible for rebuilding their confidence, because guess what you did when you say, hey, nothing wrong with you, you can go on back out there, just wait your turn. You just built up their self-confidence again. Believe it or not, if they come to you crying, the confidence down a little bit. And when you tell them to cut it out and going back out there, you're forcing them to start working life out, and they ain't even past the stage to do it with their brain. From age 2 to 6 is so vital, daddy, mama. You have to have so much patience because their brain is molding. You know what used to bother me sometimes? I'm just going to tell you. Like I said, I've been a principal of several schools, okay? Head Start, early Head Start, public schools, all of that with our families. And I always do stuff with our families every month, with our dads every month. I'm involved in these national programs where we meet with fathers all over the world all the time. And one of the things that always kind of I'm able to share with people that's effective is when we talk about these 4 areas of the brain, you'd be surprised how many people had no idea that every day you got these 4 areas of the brain that's hungry for what I'm supposed to give them every day. And when you know that as a parent, it changes the game. Everything becomes intentional now when I know that I have to build up their self-esteem and self-confidence every day. When I know that I have to help self-regulate their thoughts and their heartbeats and regulations. And then when I get in the habit of talking to them. So another thing you can do, remember speech and language, Dad. How many dads on the call drop your kid off at school in the morning? If you are a dad that drop your kid off at school in the morning, I want you to tell us what you tell your child when you drop them off. If there's a dad on the call that drops off your child at school in the morning, tell us what you say to your child when you drop them off.
Typically, make sure you lose your listening ears and have a good day. But I technically don't drop them off because I work at the center they go to.
All right, that's a good one. Somebody else, tell us what you say in the mornings when you drop off your child for school.
Yeah, this is Jacob here. I usually say something similar, but I try to hype my son and daughter up. Have a good day. Listen to your teachers. Make your mother and father proud. And do your best.
Okay, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm so thankful for you all sharing these wonderful things that you say with your child. I'm going to give you something to say and a routine to do, whether you pick them up or drop them off. I want you to add one thing that's going to help you have a bond with your child forever. If you drop off your child after you tell them you love them and have a good day, I want you to say to them, I can't wait to hear what you learned in school today. Okay, everybody, I want you to add that to what you do. You tell them be good and all that kind of stuff, but I want you to say, Mommy, Daddy can't wait to hear what you learned today. All right, and now if you pick them up and once you see them in the morning, remember from age 2 to 6, the brain is developing. So whatever routines you start now, they're going to stick forever. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. So if you pick them up, Dad, when you pick up your child, give them a hug. And when y'all get in the car or whatever, I want you to ask them, what did you learn today? Now, you might say, well, what is this about? Well, what it does is it creates a bond and a routine that lasts forever. So here's what happens. If you drop off your child and you say, I can't wait to hear what you learned today, then guess what happens when you pick them up? You're guaranteed to continue that conversation. And you're making your child not just think about being good. What is school about? School is about learning something, man, right? It's not just being good and making it. I want to know what you learned. And then what's so amazing about being a good dad, I didn't make good grades in school, man. So I knew that I was just going to act like education was important to my child. And man, my son is a graduating senior with a 4.8 Scholar of the Year athlete here in Nashville, Tennessee. Well, that's because I made him think that education was the most important thing to me, man. And they don't want to let down daddy. And the good news about your child being 2 to 6, I don't care who you're on this call or what you've been through, it's actually going to make you what's going to be a great father. All of us are smart enough to be a great dad to a 2 to 6 year. All you got to do is know how to count to 10 and know your colors and be willing to talk about nature outside. And you're going to be great, man. I promise you, you will. All right. And everything else will just come, because what I'm showing you now is we just showed you several quick examples with the dads that's on this call. I told you it's already great dads on the call. All I can do is keep adding to make you greater. Any father figure that's on a call to be a dad on a Saturday is already a great dad. We know that, or a great mother. All we're trying to do is make sure that you're really intentional, because it's one thing to love, but if you don't know what to do with that love, you understand? We can only do what we've been through. So just now, I just want to say to everybody on the call, let's go to the next slide. All right, let's go to the next slide. And I want to say to everybody on, no, go back one, go back. There we go, right there. So the thing about what we're talking about is about being in the moment and ceasing the time, right, with our children, and being intentional about what we're trying to do. Because here's what's going on. When I know that I have to be intentional about my child, and I won't just give myself credit for being a parent just because my child is around me. See, sometimes as a father figure, you know, we might be on schedules or whatever. And like if I got my son from 6 to 9 and I pick him up from school and we do this, or and then when I get home, I did this and he watched this, even though he was with me from 6 to 9, how much of it was I really there with him? You know, so you got to like maximize the time, man. You got to learn how to have fun with what little bit of time you got. So I want you to watch this like 3-4 minute video. I hope it can play here. It's an experiment, a real scientific experiment on being present. Let's see if it can play. If it doesn't, that's fine. So, like I said, if it doesn't, that's fine, because I'm going to tell you what happened.
Give me 1 second here to switch the screen share
Oh,
and
okay.
allow the sound, and hopefully it'll come through.
All right, great.
Can we see and hear?
Yes, this is great. Let it play.
What we've learned over the years is that babies are much more capable than we initially imagined, but they're also much more vulnerable. And in Edtronic's still face experiment, we get to see both in a very short period. We see the baby and the dad playing together in their routines. There are things that they know about each other and things that they do together, and it's fun. And then we ask the dad to turn away, and when he turns back, to keep his face completely still and not respond to the baby. And the results are almost immediate, and they're devastating. The baby looks to the dad and tries to get the dad to get back into those games. Hey, we were just playing just a minute ago, weren't we? We were having fun. What's going on? And then the baby starts to get frustrated when that doesn't work. So she'll have to look away and look around the room and find something else, and then look back and say, now can we play? And within 3 minutes, the baby has really dissolved. She is trying to get out of the chair. She's uncomfortable. She's reaching out to dad. She's crying. And then we ask the dad to turn away again. And when he turns back, to go back to being regular dad. And it's a joyous reunion. They get back into their routines, the things that they do together, the things that they were just doing 3 minutes before. And the baby settles down and gets back to the comfort zone that she's developed.
Yes, man. Yes, you can stop the video.
What we
Yes, yes, yes. Did you see that? Did you feel what that baby felt when dad paid attention? See, just because you in their presence, daddy, doesn't mean that you give them all that you can give off when we pay close attention. If we could go back to the slide that talks about the balance into how to maximize the time, because I want to let you know it's not about how much time you have, it's about what you do with the time that you have. So for example, there are times when I leave home at 5 a.m. and I know I got to do stuff with my 18-year-old, because I didn't tell you I got an 18-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. That's right. I came out of retirement and just had another baby, and I'm enjoying every bit of the challenge. Notice I said I'm enjoying every bit of the challenge, because I want you to know that it can be. And other parents need to hear that. I'm a early education principal. My wife is a former pre-K teacher, and we have to have patience, man, with this 3.5-year-old that was born during this time. But guess what? There are days when I know when I get home, I only got 30 minutes left. So here's what I do. Like, look at this picture here. Obviously, this guy just got home and making the best out of whatever time he got. And that's what I want you to understand, that use your home as a time to reset from the cares of the world. It's the only place where you are completely in control of what's going around. Like when it's raining outside, like we take the umbrella, right? And then when we go in the house, what do? We close it, we shake the rain off and sit at the door. We don't walk through the house dripping the rain all through the house and all of that. Well, even as a dad, listen, your house is the one place where you are Mufasa, man. Enjoy being the leader of the pride. When you are around, everything changes just because you're there. And then here's the thing. When I know that I only have 30 minutes, all right, my wife knows, we know that I put our son down, he goes to sleep at 8 o'clock. So if I ain't getting home to 7:30, I give her a call. She know, hey, when I get home, I'm gonna go hard with Jonah, right? So I've been gone all day. And I want you to understand that it's not about what you do, it's about what do you do when you have your time with them. So if I know I got 30 minutes, I go right in the house. I say, hey, Jonah, what's going on, man? I tell you what, you want to go marching? Just like he got some pans. I just get some pans and pots. And I said, let's go marching, Jonah. Woohoo! 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, listen, first of all, let me let you know, you're going to be a dad, you got to be silly, man. We can be cool with everybody else, with all the homies, everybody know we cool. But listen, with a 2 to 6-year-old, man, be silly, okay? I'm showing you, listen, I'm showing you, even with all my tattoos and everything. I say, hey, come on, man, let's have a good time. And so then we march around the house for about 5 or 10 minutes, and I sit down and say, hey, man, go get some of your dinosaurs. My 3-year-old love dinosaurs, so I know about Spinosaurus, T-Rex, Bronchosaurus, man, I know all the saurs, man. And so we get the dinosaurs and we have a dinosaur party, man. Are you ready? Hey, matter of fact, I can't say that too loud because I'm in a room. If he hear me say dinosaur party, he's gonna come knock on the door. So I just go have a dinosaur party with him and we be having a good time. Then I say, hey man, whoo, that was a fun dinosaur party. You know what we can do? Let's go get a book. Show me one of your books. And then we do a book. And then I say, hey man, you wanna do some bath time? Let's go play with some water and some animals in the bath. And man, don't you know he'd be tired in them 30 minutes. And then I got grown-up time. See, what happens is, as dads, we try to come in, talk to the mama, no, man, how you gonna mix mama time and dad time? You ain't got but 30 minutes. That's gonna be a conflict, brother. Why don't you just focus on the baby? Because if you tell your woman or your mama or whoever the child is with, if you call and say, hey, I'm gonna focus on him and then me and you gonna relax, have a good time, then she's gonna support that. Just communicate. But my point is this, it's not about how much time you have. It's about what you do. When I first went through my first divorce with my son, I told you he's 18, right? Well, when he was 3 years old is when we went through a divorce. And I want you to know that, we're great co-parents now, but it didn't start off that way, And I want you to know that's natural too. But if two people learn to focus on the baby and get past each other, it'll work out, man. Just focus on your parenting and eventually it'll all work out. I need somebody on the call needed to know that it's going to work out with you and the baby daddy and the baby mama. Everything going to be fine. You're going through something now, but if one person start doing things intentionally and just sticking with it, believe it or not, it'll show up and wear off on the next person. And especially as a father, man, if you maximize your time and be who you need to be, and then even when it comes to the child's mother, as a dad, you need to know that if you start thinking about the child, it'll help the way you treat the child's mother. See, from age 2 to 6, they're going to be connected emotionally regardless. So if your child's mom is going through something, or if you're adding to the stress of her life, or whatever that case might be, I promise you, it's going to come out, and the child's going to feel it because she's going to hug on them sometimes, cry on them, might even become the consoler instead of being the one consoled. And we don't want to put our children in that place. So as father figures, we use our child as motivation for maximizing our time because their brain is growing. It helps us in a whole lot of other areas. We can find a lot of confidence, man. My dad used to tell me all the time, because I was worried about what people were saying about me sometimes, because I knew that people were saying certain things about this and that when we went through that situation. And my dad used to tell me, listen, son, one thing you need to understand is that if you do what you need to do with your son when you got him, nothing nobody can say can never change anything. Just do what you're supposed to do when you with your child, and you don't have to worry about nothing. It was so true. Man, it got to the point, man, where my son, by the time he was 7, if somebody tried to say something about me, he would say, Dad, I had to tell them, they don't need to say nothing like that, this, and this. See what I'm saying? See, if you just focus on maximizing your time, man, nothing can do anything about that bond. And you'll have a bond that lasts forever. Just like I told you, when you start picking up your child, if you start saying to them, giving them a hug when you pick them up, and then say to them, what did you learn today? Then what do you think is happening? Let me tell you what happens. I started doing that when my son was 3. Hey, man, what you learn today? We go to the park. What you learn today? Well, now that he's 18, when I go pick him up from school, what do you think he does when I pick him up from school? I'm going to tell you what he does. He tells me everything been going on. He's been doing that. See, you can't wait for your child to get 16, 17, 18 and try to talk. You got to talk now. You got to create the routines now. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, fathers. See, I'm going to hit you with this. Remember, there's no manual for being a great father, but if you do about these 3 or 4 things we're talking about, you're going to be the best father ever, brother. And I want to share with you the power of talking and hugs. That's why I want you to start talking now. That's the reason I want you to add that routine of whatever you're telling them, make sure you're telling them you want to talk about what they learned. The reason I'm telling you to do that is because there is a power that comes along with talking. In fact, you can use talking as a discipline. That's right. You can use talking as a discipline. The reason talking doesn't work as a discipline with some of our children is because you only try to do it when they do something wrong. The only way talking works as a discipline, you have to talk and give them positive reinforcement in different talking spaces throughout the day. All right. I really need you to get this. So what I'm saying to you is, at some point throughout the day, every day, there should be a time where you take about 30 seconds to a minute, no matter what's going on, no matter what your child is doing, and I want you to call your child over to you. Like in the middle of the day, just say, like for me, I say, hey, Jonah, come over here, buddy. And he'll come to me, and I just give him a hug and say, hey, man, I just want to let you know I love you, man. Daddy love you, buddy. You're a good little boy. Go on back over and play. And then at some point throughout the day, I do it again. So that means in a day, about once or twice a day, no matter what's going on, if your child is watching TV, whatever, go somewhere, don't go to them, like go sit on the couch or sit somewhere away and say, hey, come over here, Chris, come over here, Chantel, whatever her name is. And then when they come to you, you say, hey, I just want to let you know I love you and daddy and mommy proud of you. Going back over there. Well, the reason you're going to do this is because what that does, it allows your voice to become a powerful tool. It allows you also the opportunity for your child to know just because you say, come over here, let's talk, it ain't always bad. See, talking don't work for people because we don't talk to positively reinforce who we want them to be. See, if you call your child to you, like my 18-year-old, I used to tell him, man, I love you, man. You don't never have to daddy, don't never have to tell you nothing twice. I used to tell him that all the time. I never had to tell you nothing twice. Well, guess what his focus was throughout life? That I didn't tell him nothing twice. And it just came from talking. Okay. Now, of course, it ain't going to happen overnight. Talking as a discipline is a practice, but I want you to know that it's the only thing that's going to last. Let me give an example. All right, let's talk about what are the 3 ways that you can discipline a child? Somebody tell me. Don't be scared to tell me either. Ain't nobody gonna report you or nothing. What's the 3 ways to discipline a child? Somebody tell me one of them.
Take away what they love.
That's punishment. All right, we got punishment on the board. What's another way to discipline a child?
Have a conversation.
That's verbal. All right, that's great. What's another way to discipline a child?
Correcting behavior or letting them know an alternative action to what they did that was wrong or out of order?
That's verbal. What's another way of correcting the discipline of the child? I like y'all on here. Y'all so scared to say what some people do sometimes. Well, what do some people do besides verbal and punishment? Okay, some people actually
Physically.
spank them. Yes, some people physical. So here's my question. When you look at being a parent, you want to be a parent for your child forever, right? So if you get used to just whooping a child and punishing a child, you ain't gonna be able to do that forever. At some point, you're gonna have to get them to honor you for being a parent through your talking and your character. See, the problem is we want people to fear us. As men and father figures, we must understand it's not about the child fearing you, it's about them respecting you and what you pour out to them, right? Because see, if all you go off is your natural instincts, that has nothing to do with parenting. Here's what I mean by that. How many people have ever seen a pack of wolves or a pack of lions out in the wild, right, on the TV, right? And if one of the little baby cubs does something wrong, what does the parent do? Somebody tell me what happens, right? Roar, they scratch, they scream, they ram. So I just want you to know this. As a parent, you have to understand that yelling and that hitting and all that, that's just your natural instincts. And I know that you can be stronger than that. I know that you can push yourself past natural instincts and begin to talk and verbalize to your child and support those areas as a father. Because talking is the only thing that's going to last, man. See, when you start bringing your child over from 2 to 6, remember, whatever you do from 2 to 6, it's in your brain, 85% chance. So if you start telling your child, hey, man, come here, let me talk to you. Then when they get 13, 14, because then you want to talk to them, right? When you say, hey, come over here, let's talk, then they're not going to not know what to do. They're going to come and talk. But if you haven't been doing that from 2 to 6, and then when they get older, hey, I want you to talk to me, listen to me, I'm going to tell you something. You haven't been talking all this time. So you want to start talking there. There's power. And then I want you to know this. You have to hug these babies, man. Little boys need just as much hugs as little girls. From age 2 to 6, you can't look at the hug and emotional support as different. It's a brain. Okay, let me say it again. From 2 to 6, boys and girls need the same amount of hugs and emotional support, because you can't try to make a child be hard and tough from 2, 3, 4 because they act down, they don't know what to do with all that. They need hugs and love. Little boys need hugs just as much as little girls. I want to tell you a true story about hugging. What did I tell you I do? I told you with my son, ever since he was 3, when I pick him up, I give him a hug and I say, how was your day? What did you learn? Well, now he 18. So when he get in the car, of course, we don't reach over with, we do the whole little cool 18-year-old dap that he do, how that go, right? But the point is, I never had to worry about him being in a situation like what I'm getting ready to tell you about. The reason you need to start hugging is, number one, if you didn't get them, and most of us men, we did not get the type of hugs that, remember, today's men are a reflection of the older generation men, and we didn't get a lot of hugs. But I tell you what, we are the most hugging brothers ever. I bet you if I went on this call and asked how many dads hug their child, man, you know why we hug them? Because it feels good. And that's what I love about fatherhood, is that whatever didn't happen to you, if you do it with your child, you still get to get healing from what you didn't get. It's a beautiful thing, man. So let me tell you this story. There's a story that happened on HBO like in 1994. It's called Gang Banging in Little Rock. I don't know if anybody on this call is old enough to know about that, but it was this HBO special called Gang Banging in Little Rock, man. And it was about all these teenagers that had started gangs, and it was just out of control. They never thought gangs would be in Little Rock, but here they were, right? So then 10 years later, HBO went back to follow up with the gang banging in Little Rock. And when they went back, over 200 to 300 people had been killed since from gang activity. And they found the guy who brought the gangs to Little Rock. And they said to him, do you remember why you joined the gang? And he said, yeah, I remember to this day exactly why I joined. He said, I was visiting my friends, my cousins in Compton. He said, I always saw Crips across the street, man. I always saw that. I wasn't turned on because they had girls and money and cars. He said, but this day, I was looking across the street at the Crips. He said, man, and the big homie walked up to one of them. And when the big homie walked up to him, he grabbed him and he gave him a hug, man. He showed him so much love, man. He said, man, when I saw that, I knew I had to get down. That's a true story, family. That is a true story. You got a man that brought gangs to Little Rock simply because he was caught by a man showing someone love. So imagine had this guy been getting hugs from his father, then seeing somebody else get a hug or never catch his attention. So you have to understand, man, there's power in your hugs and there's powers in your talking. And that's what's going to allow us to continue to create what's called long-lasting generational bonds. Boys need them just as much. Many teens join gangs because of the lack of love and physical love that they're getting through the power of hugs and talking. When you're hugging, you're creating an emotional bond with your child. You're letting them know that you're going to be there. So it goes from a hug when they get older to the phone call. You want them to know they can come to you, right? So you start hugging now, and it's going to open up so much for your life, even if there's nothing you have been doing. And it's not going to change your son or make your son soft. It actually makes them more well-rounded and more confident in who they are. All right, let's go to the next slide. It's important that you understand, man, the opportunity we have as men, the opportunity we have to build a legacy and to begin a legacy. You know, legacy is something that I really started teaching even more after my father passed, because obviously people have a misunderstanding of what leaving a legacy is about. See, when my father passed, for 2 days, people was just quiet. And then all of a sudden, when everybody found out he had a 401k and all of this stuff, then all of a sudden people said, oh, look, he left a legacy, man. He was awesome. He left a legacy. Man, so many people have no idea what a legacy is. The legacy is the fact that I'm talking to you about the lessons that he shared with me. The legacy is that I'm able to take that letter and that it allows me to do what I do with my sons, and that I'm making these moves to leave generational things for years to come. That's a legacy. And you have to understand that you, as a father figure, have now the opportunity to begin a new legacy. Leave a legacy for yourself. See, everybody on this call got a child 2 to 6. So that's time for new legacy. It doesn't matter what it is now. It's about what are you going to do now to leave something for generations to come. And that's the good part about being a father figure, is that you want to look at what your legacy is. Your legacy is what you're going to be known for. It's not about how much money you have. It's about what you're going to be known for. And if you remember every day that I'm the steward of this wonderful child, and their brain needs me to help them support their self-confidence and their hope, and help them self-regulate, not only just gross motor skills and all these wonderful things, then what happens is your legacy becomes something that's just as powerful as my pop's legacy. That's why I wear his ring. That's why even though my son that's 3 never met him, he knows all about him, right? Because that's legacy. And you have the ability to make sure that you begin and leave a legacy. And it's important that you know that whatever you are to whoever, whether you are male or female on this call, you are saving somebody's life. And I need you to know that. Don't question who you are based on your job, how much money you make, and all that kind of stuff. But look at this picture right here and base who you are on the fact that because you're in those Cubs' lives, they have that comfort those Cubs have. That's what, if you focus on who you are as a parent, all that other stuff will just take care of itself. If you make leaving a legacy your focus for your children, watch how much all your life and world will come together. Let's keep going to the next slide, because I want you to know why this is important. So this picture right here, I want you to see this, all right? All the mothers, father figures, I want you to see this. So what you have here is, that's me and my daddy. That's me, the little kid there with my father, which is obviously back in about 78, 79 or something like that. But then if you look up to the left, the black and white picture, right? In the black and white picture, there's this guy holding a little kid's hand, and the little kid is like, look, you see that kid? He's looking all around, exploring the world. Do y'all see that? Now, that little boy in that picture is also me, but that's not my daddy. So this picture came up in a magazine. Someone sent it to someone. His name is Carl Reed. In fact, he's so special, he's honored in my book, Peace Like Never Before. But Carl was one of my mama's boyfriends. See, that's why I need everybody on this call to know how important you are. You don't have to be no biologically anything to these children, but it's important who you are, man. Because Carl, I remember to this day, he used to take me to concerts. He taught me how to develop my drawing skills. He was just great. And then I found out by this picture, he used to go shopping to get albums and make sure I went out in town with him. Now that's called being a father figure. You don't have to be biological, man. But man, that stuff saved my life. And look what I do now. I work with millions all over the world telling them about these things. That's legacy. That's wonderful, man. And I hope he never doubted who he was in life. Now, I want you to also look at this black box down there. You see that black box? You know, I live with all kinds of men. Some of them tortured us. Some of them did all kinds of stuff to us. And that's the black box. And I don't want nobody on this call to end up in the black box. I want everybody to understand on this call how important you are. And the fact that I had those people, the black box didn't ruin my life. Let me say it again. The fact that I had those people in my life is the reason the traumas in my life did not ruin everything. So I want to encourage you all to take these skills, man, and really understand what we have and the opportunity we have as fathers. And just continue to just add these things to what you're doing. And I promise you, man, it'll work out for you in tremendous ways. Now let's go to the next slide. I want you to think about building a new legacy and know that no matter what your family history is, you have the opportunity now to make new generational cycles in your family. No matter, and it's important to look at what happened in your family and take a look and say to yourself, what do I want to establish that's different going forward? We all have the opportunity to build legacies, to break generational cycles, and to begin passing keys of life that are based on success. As a father, man, we can fuel people to the next level in life. I had a little video here, but I know we're running out of time, so I'm not even going to play it. But it's a video that shows, I'm sure you all are familiar with the movie Pursuit of Happiness, right? In Pursuit of Happiness by Will Smith, there's a point in the movie where him and his boy are up top of a building shooting basketball. And his little boy is shooting basketball, and all of a sudden his little boy says, I'm gonna go to the NBA. And Will Smith turns to him and he says, man, no, you can do a lot of things, but we ain't gonna be, I was a okay player, so that means you ain't gonna be, but whatever. And the little boy threw the ball. He was sad and walked off. And in that moment, Will Smith remembered and noticed what he had done to that child by not encouraging. He called him back over to him. And he said, son, in life, don't you ever let nobody tell you can't do anything. People will tell you to give up on your dreams, but you can't give up on your dreams. You gotta, and the point is real simple. As a father, man, we have the ability to fuel generational cycles, to start new legacies, to change everything around us. Men can change the environment around them. If you notice, when you look at that stuff out in the wild, when that lion is going away from that shade tree, then all kind of stuff is happening. But I tell you what, when the lion comes home, the whole pride changes just because the lion is there. And that's who you are, guys. And that's who we can be to our families. So I want to encourage you to continue to be great fathers, implement some of these things we've talked about. Doesn't matter what your family history is, you can begin new history. It's your legacy to begin. And I'm just so thankful for the opportunity as well. Let's go to the next slide. I know I'm running out of time. I think, how much time do I have left? Somebody tell me. I think I got 7 minutes. This is great. 7 minutes, 6 minutes. Good, because I want to give you tips on how to begin building a legacy. It's one thing to tell somebody to start a legacy, but I want to give you some practical tips, man, on how you can begin your legacy. First of all, I want you to create stuff that's called bonding tools. Bonding tools are simply things that you do with your child that are special and they're different. So for me and my 18-year-old, every day we used to go and shoot ball at the basketball court, this special court, and we kept doing it. And we've always done it his whole life. That's our bonding tool. We go to the court, we shoot and talk. With my little one, we like to walk and look at nature stuff. He loves to do that. So I know that's probably going to be one of our bonding tools. You see what I'm saying? For each person is something different. Whatever you do during that time, start teaching them and talking to them during that time. So even if your child likes to paint, you can get some stuff. And while y'all painting, that's your bonding tool. And during that painting time, you just lay little nuggets on them. Hey man, daddy love you so much. I'm going to always do whatever I can for you, okay? See, here's the thing about being a dad. We have these thoughts all the time. We just don't open our mouth up. Like there have been times when I pick my child up, he'd be sitting in the back and I just be driving and I look in that rear view mirror and I say to myself, man, that's why I do what I do, man. I'm gonna make sure I do whatever I can for that boy, right? Well, instead of just thinking that, how about doing this? Turn around and say, hey, Jonah, man, daddy love you, man. We're going to be just fine. I'm going to always work hard for you, man, so we can have some of the best things in life, brother, whatever that might be for you. See, for me, I just want to have a place to stay in the backyard. That's all I want. That's all I want. Just a place to stay in the backyard for the kids and I can go walk. That's all I want. And see, life becomes simple when you focus your joy and your peace on being a great parent. When you start focusing your joy and your peace on who you are as a parent and just be great at it, then nobody can take it away from you. And no better thing than to have that type of joy that people can't take away. So then, as you begin to create these routines to start building a legacy, you need to start thinking and planning out things that have to do with the future. You can't accomplish it all right now, but I want you to know this. It's just like in the jungle. Every day a lion wakes up with a gazelle on his mind. And as long as the gazelle on his mind, anything around, he just might eat it because he don't even see a gazelle in sight. I call this story Lions, Gazelles, and Bamboo Meat. It's in the book as well. So listen, let me tell you what that means. That means that if the lion is thinking about a gazelle, once he sees one, even if it's on the other side of the jungle, all of a sudden it changes. His life changes. He doesn't even have the gazelle, but he sees a gazelle on the other side of the jungle. So now, even if he makes a little step, it doesn't matter. He still is joyful because he's closer to the gazelle. And the fact that he has a gazelle in sight, guess what? He ain't going to eat bamboo meat along the way. See, here's the point. When you can see your dreams and see your future and just make a step each day, then you won't settle for all this stuff around you. So as a man, I'm telling you to just see yourself, see your dreams, and then water it every day. See, all you got to do is think about what's special to you, your gifts and your talents. We all have a fingerprint. Why do you think your fingerprint, my brother, is just limited to your finger? That means you have a unique set of gifts and talents that only you can do in the world. And if you just water it every day, focus on being a parent and then water your greatness every day, and you'll see your legacy come to place because your gifts and talents are going to make room for you. You just have to water them every day. Now, how do you have a gazelle in sight? It once was a time when you needed a vision board. You had to find some, cut some glue out and all this and hope you can find what you need. Well, we live in a world now, whatever you're great at, fathers and mothers, why don't you Google it? You're going to always think about your whole life. That's why you keep thinking about it no matter what you're doing. So if you're eating bamboo meat and you're supposed to be eating a gazelle, you're going to always think about your gifts. So all I'm telling you is to Google what you want to do in life and just make sure each day you read or do anything that gets you closer, and you're going to have the joy of getting closer to that gazelle. When you make your family and fatherhood your priority and feed and water your greatness, then you will see your life change. Be consistent. Keep walking in purpose and making intentional father efforts, and the other parts of your life will align with no issues. Let's go to the next slide. So I want to thank you for your time, family. Some of you are in schools, and I want to let you know what I do in North Carolina and all over. I especially love North Carolina, is that I go to different districts and I show them how to engage their families and their men. That's just last month. Started a new program for fathers in Salisbury, Rowan counties of North Carolina. Over here on the left, that's one of the programs in Durham, fathers and families. I'm also working with the fathers and figures in Greensboro. And we have a new year coming upon us, and I am available to work with you and your men and your city and your families as well, your staff, whatever it takes to bridge those gaps. There were a lot of great things said in some of the other calls. Remember, I worked as an administrator, the principal too. We have to have systems to bring the love of these mothers and fathers in the school together, and it can be an awesome thing. So that's how you can find me right there. If you are interested in connecting even more, I want to thank you for your time today. I mentioned it in the other class. I also have a book called Peace Like Never Before. It's the 20 lessons on life and how to have peace of mind as a parent and as a father that nobody can take away from you. It's on Amazon. It's only $11.95 too. Beautiful book. I did it in memory of my mother and father. Since they taught me these lessons that I share around the world, I wanted to put them in a book and make them available to you. So you can find it on Amazon, D.L. Jones, Peace Like Never Before. You can find me on my email as well. And I would like to go ahead. Thank you, Chris. And I would love to go ahead and open it up for questions or any comments before we leave.
I do have one question.
Sure.
Because I'm not here because I'm a single mom and I feel like I played the dad role. I will never be a dad. I'm a mom and I mother my children to the best of my ability.
Yes.
But being a parent leader and part of the parent leader network, there are lots of father figures out here. Matter of fact, a couple of them are in this room. And I'm always curious about how to get fathers to want to be engaged with my son, with my daughter in ways that are meaningful, that are impactful, without it having to have anything to do with me. I'm single. I'm not in a relationship. That's not the focus. You know what I mean?
This is a very common thing. I want to share this with everybody before I get off. Every city I've been at, there's always a community center. I'm big on community centers, right? So here in Nashville, I teach people all over. I go to the community center myself every Tuesday, Thursday. There are great guys that go to these community centers. All you gotta do is get your child, once they're age 4, 5, 6, 7, you have to connect them to a sport. That's a father figure. Those guys that coach these sports, we love these kids. And you connect them. You don't have to sit at home as a mom. Get them involved with the community activities and they're gonna connect to some great men. That's what saved my life. I was around trauma, the community centers and people, my mom taking me around other people is what saved my life. So you do what you can do at home and then connect them with something like that and it's going to work out, sister. I want to thank you all again. It's very good. I hope I get to see you soon again somehow. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the conference and keep being outstanding and great parents and father figures especially.